Hey guys, this is the TP-Link M7350 Wi-Fi dongle. This is the version 4. I bought it to replace my old TP-Link M5350, which is now discontinued. The way this works is you buy a data SIM card, insert it into the device, and then use it as a Wi-Fi hotspot for all your other devices when you're either on holiday or traveling. In my case, I travel a lot globally for work, and I use it as a Wi-Fi hotspot for all my mobile devices and other devices, so I have access to the internet in other countries. This is good if you want an independent internet access point from your mobile phone, the hotspot on your phone, and can be useful in things like hotel rooms, maybe in your car when you're traveling, or perhaps somewhere you're staying temporarily if you have family with you, family and friends. While we're doing the unboxing, let's talk a little bit about the specifications. This device is a 4G LTE device which has a maximum download speed of 150 megabits per second down and 50 megabits per second up. In the real world, you'll get much less than that. Typically in the UK, it's 20 down and 10 up. But that's still more than adequate for most people's uses. For example, to stream HD content, you need about 5 megabits per second, so well within the capabilities of that. But you will not get anything like the theoretical maximum figure that they quoted on the boxes of 150 down and 50 up. In some countries now, like in the UK, LTE Advanced 4G is available, which is about double the speed, but it's only available in a few cities. This device, as far as I know, is not compatible with that. So this is a 4G LTE device, but it's backward compatible with all the other standards, and typically when I travel abroad, usually it's 3G that I'm using, and that works fine. There's really not much to see in the box, so let's whiz forward and have a look at the device itself. It's basically a little black box with a power switch on the front, and there is actually a little screen underneath that black shiny panel that runs across the top. It's made of it's got like a rubberized texture on the back so it doesn't slide around on the table. It's got a micro USB charge port that you can charge from any micro USB device. It's got a little menu button on the top there which you can see when you switch it on. Okay, and the back pops off to reveal the battery and the SIM card cover and the micro SD card slot. It's not really that rubbery, is it? But it does work. They press and hold the power button to power it up. Okay, and you can see it's got a little color screen. In my opinion, color screen's not really that useful. Basically all I use it for is to tell it whether the device is switched on or not. And the writing's so tiny on it that it doesn't really tell you a great deal unless you're actually having problems. The counter for data bandwidth you've used I found to not be particularly accurate, or I have had some problems with it. There's a little message notification of the network as you're connected, and whether or not your Wi-Fi is working, and obviously the battery percentage. And these menus you can scroll through, you can look at them, there are things that you can do, but actually the interface is really annoying and inconvenient, so you're better off going into the web UI or using the mobile app, which is the TP-Wi-Fi app. Both the TP-Wi-Fi app and the web UI I would say are equally good, so I just tend to use the web UI in a browser on a device because I find it more convenient. It's kind of very generic stuff. I mean, it's well laid out. Obviously you log in with your password. I name my SSID after printers because I find that there's probably less chance of people trying to hijack my Wi-Fi. But it is password protected with the right sort of security. It's actually a dual band Wi-Fi system with 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz, which is fast enough for your maximum connection speed. You've got kind of a wizard for connection. You've got a home page with various status updates. You can actually send and receive text messages, although as you can see, unless you happen to be an Arabic speaker and writer, you're not going to be able to understand what those are. I can't. That's one of the downsides of traveling the world. Obviously, sometimes you get messages you don't understand. There are various settings which you can play with, but there isn't anything really exciting in here. The unit has a DHCP server, as you'd expect, so obviously it gives out IP addresses. It has actually got a limit of up to 10 wireless devices, which for a single person traveling around the world is not a problem. but if I travel with my family, that is not going to be enough for all of the mobile devices that we have with the wife and kids and everybody else in tow. Worth thinking about, actually, because a limitation to 10 devices, have a think about what you connect to your home Wi-Fi device, and when you go on holiday, just be aware of the fact that you might bump into that limit quite easily. I know I would. I do like the fact that it's got firmware checking and automatic update from the web UI, which is handy. One thing I'd say about that is, in my experience, TP-Link don't have a very good record of keeping their firmware up to date. They tend to drop devices fairly quickly, and this is the third device where I've had occasional stability problems from TP-Link. Occasionally this does need a reboot. It'll lock up and need a reboot. It's not that often, but often enough to be inconvenient. Once you get used to it, obviously you know what you've got to do. That's the web UI. A couple of other things to mention. The power button on the front, I find it quite inconvenient. Sometimes I press the button and I'm never quite sure. There's a long delay as the unit starts up. And sometimes I find I press the power button and the unit has not actually started up. And it can get quite confusing at times. I think just a simple power on LED would probably be more convenient, actually. One thing that is convenient is obviously the power. You can just charge it from micro USB, and if you've got a non-Apple phone, it's probably the same charger. So I just use my phone charger wherever I go in the world. It's very convenient. Just charge it up. The battery is a 2000 milliampere battery, which is supposed to give 8 hours of battery life, and I think that's probably about right, actually. I've used this device for long periods, and I think it probably lasts at least 8 hours. I think I might have actually had longer than that in the 6 months I've used it on occasion. So in general, battery life is good. When you pop the back off, you can see the battery. You take out the battery. Oh, it's still switched on. Never mind. Okay, that's worked. Okay, so you can take the battery out the back, and underneath you can see the little slot where the SIM card goes. And there's also a slot there for a 32 gigabyte micro SD card for data storage. To be honest with you, not something I've ever used. I suppose you could put some movies or music on there, like a central server. To be honest with you, I don't think it's a particularly useful feature for me. Might be for others. Here's a battery. It's a 3.7 volt battery. Okay, let's talk some pluses and minuses and finish this off then. So, on the positive side, I do like the form factor. It's small, it's pocketable, it's got decent battery life of over 8 hours. It's widely compatible with networks in other parts of the world, and I haven't had any problems at all with that. The Wi-Fi speed is adequate. The Wi-Fi range is not brilliant. It's a low-power device, you know. Really, you want to be in the same room, maybe in the next room, but really for a decent signal, people need to be fairly close together. It's not like a home Wi-Fi access point with the range that you can expect from that. You're not going to get that, so be aware of that. It's very easy to charge, and the convenience of having micro USB, which is basically ubiquitous, isn't it? Everybody's got it now, apart from Apple users. It's relatively cheap to buy. In the UK, it's still retailing for about £70. And the web UI works well, and the mobile app works okay as well. On the negative side, there's some stuff I don't like about it. The power up button thing is more annoying than you think, and if you're having the same problem, you'll know what I mean if you've got one. Not being sure whether you switched it on or not, back up and down again to check whether you powered it up is annoying. The limit to 10 devices I think is going to be a problem for some people. It certainly will be for me. I wouldn't take this on holiday with me for my family because wife and 2 kids, everybody's got multiple devices. We're going to hit that 10 device barrier fairly quickly. Be aware of that. In that respect, it's not really much better than just having an old mobile phone and using that as an access point. It's got a little few more features than that, but if you've got an old phone stuck in a drawer, which is maybe an Android phone and can operate as a Wi-Fi hotspot, you're probably just as well using that, to be honest. Occasionally it locks up and needs rebooting, and this is something I found with TP-Link devices. What they do is they pump the devices out very quickly. They don't tend to hang around and provide the firmware support, so if you've got stability issues or other problems with the firmware, they're not very good at updating the firmware for the life of the device, and that's been my experience with at least 2 other devices, as I've said. I think the screen is a bit pointless, and I think the micro SD card is probably a feature that many people won't use. Okay, overall though, is this worth it? Well, I think for your specific use case, I mean, if you're like me and you travel solo around the world, pick up a SIM card at an airport, use data for a few days, and then move on, and you prefer your Wi-Fi dongle to be separate from your phone for the convenience of having it in one place and multiple devices, maybe in a hotel room, then I think it's okay. Okay. For most people though, I actually think you're better off either just using an old phone or maybe getting a more powerful device that can cope with more numbers of devices, like above that 10 limit, and potentially looking to spend a little bit more on a device that can go up to maybe 32 devices, possibly also maybe from a vendor that has a better record of stable firmware and regular firmware updates and aftermarket support. So I'm kind of medium on this one. I think if it's for you, you'll know. But if you're not sure, maybe look elsewhere. And that's it really, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.